With so many sales on these days, how do you know when you've seen a good deal? We make it easier by trawling through the deals for you to find genuinely good prices on genuinely good products, all packaged up into a free monthly newsletter. Using internal pricing data and our own market knowledge, we keep an eye on price changes and let you know whether a product is at its cheapest point. From bargains on TVs to discounts on laptops, the products we share have all been put under the Which microscope, meaning we only recommend deals on items we know work well. Our expert advice cuts through the noise to share reductions and reviews which we think will interest you. So make sure you sign up for our brand new Deals newsletter to help you grab the genuine bargains. Just head to which.co.uk/WP_deals. That's which.co.uk/WP_deals.
When life gives you questions, Which? Get answers.
Welcome to the Which Money Podcast, your weekly hit of money news and personal finance hacks to help make you better off. I'm your host, Lucia Ariano, and here's what's coming up this week.
If there's a subscription that you are getting value from, you can do something called soft quitting, which is where you go almost right to the end of the cancellation process. And almost always with lots of things, they will say, oh, hey, no, do you want to stay with us for another 3 months at sometimes very high discount?
But with the Monzo one, it's always restaurants and shops that I shop at a lot. They're really popular brands. So that for me, I'm like, oh, finally a cashback offer that I feel like I can really make the most of because I actually shop there.
Now, from the day we release this episode, there are just 33 days until Christmas Day. So in today's show, we're asking, what can you do to help put some money aside and cut the cost of Christmas this year? And joining us with their wealth of money-saving tips are Grace Witherden, senior writer here at Which, and author and money expert Clare Seal. Welcome to the show, both.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. Grace, you're a familiar voice for our listeners. And Clare, for anyone who doesn't yet know you, they might have seen you on Instagram or seen you talking about one of your books. Could you just give us a little introduction?
Yeah, of course. So I got into talking about money not by sort of a background in financial services, but basically for getting it all totally wrong for the first 10 years of my adult life. So I basically started an Instagram account to turn my finances around. That was over 5 years ago. And so now I kind of try and talk about the human and relatable side of finance. I don't know if it always gets quite enough airtime.
So shall we move then on to budgeting? It often comes up as a way to manage our finances. And now there are apps that will take out a lot of the hard work for you, aren't there, Grace?
Yeah, there's plenty of free budgeting tools available if that's something that you might struggle with. Thanks to open banking, these apps can bring all of your different accounts in one place. And this makes it easier then to manage expenses and identify where you can save. So I have had a look. Shall I maybe give a roundup of some of the free ones that we recommend? There's one called Emma, and for the free version, you can link up to 2 bank accounts, and this will categorize your expenses. So you can see how much, for example, you might be spending on travel and maybe shopping. All of the apps I'm going to say have free features to use, but you can upgrade to get more features. There's another app called Hyperjar, and that uses digital jars to allocate funds by category. So for example, you could say, I'm going to put £20 in this jar, and I'm going to spend, this is for my treats for the week, like my coffees. And with some, you can even earn interest. So then there is another app called Plum. And this app automates small savings with roundup features, and it offers some spending insights to keep you on track. And the last one is Snoop. And this, you can gather all your accounts in one place. It also categorizes your spending, as mentioned above, and it provides some money saving tips tailored to your habits. So that's a good whistle stop tour of some of the apps that are available that we've had a look at ourselves.
I have to be honest, I don't think I've ever used one of these apps. I mean, have either of you two? And I suppose for anyone listening, how might you suggest they use them?
I've actually used 3 of the 4 of those. I use them
Oh.
for slightly different things. What I think that especially Hyperjar and Snoop are really good for, and I'd imagine Emma as well, are I see budgeting as a 2-step process.
Mm.
There's the planning step, which I still absolutely love an Excel spreadsheet for the planning step. And then there is the kind of implementation step. And that's where everyone falls down, right? Because it all adds up on paper and in theory it's all fine. But then, I think a lot of us do a lot of miscellaneous spending, a lot of sort of thoughtless spending. And that's where these apps really come into their own.
And these apps, they might have a free version, they also might have a paid for version. Is it ever worth paying for one?
So I always think that it's best to start with the free version first and see how you get on with it. See if you like how it looks and is it easy to use? How often do you actually pick it up and look at it? And then at that point, I think if you've used it maybe for a couple of weeks, you can think, okay, I feel like I am going to get the most of this. I wouldn't necessarily jump to paying for something before knowing if you're going to use it. I'd always sort of dip my toes in with seeing how I like it first and then consider maybe paying for premium features if I think I'm going to get the most out of them.
Well, shall we move now then on to how to cut some of our outgoings? And one of the first things that always comes to my mind is subscriptions. And I'm so guilty of this. When you see your bank statement and you notice you've got a subscription or more than one even coming out that you're not even using. So Claire, what's your advice when it comes to subscriptions?
So my thoughts on subscriptions are that sometimes they get a bit of a bad rap. And I do think that it's possible to really waste a lot of money on subscriptions. But I think that in actual fact, sometimes you're getting loads of value out of those subscriptions and you really miss them when they're gone. So as with any kind of budgeting, I would always recommend using a value-based model. Think about the subscriptions, once a month, maybe do a little subscription audit. It's really good to look at your budget once a month anyway, and just go through handily. Normally, all of your sort of digital subscriptions are largely in one place. Really try and think quite honestly and quite deeply about what you're getting value from and what you want and what you want to do to reduce your outgoings without compromising your quality of life. What you always want to cut first is the waste. The other thing that I would say is that, second step is that if there's a subscription that you are getting value from, for example, you still love binge watching a show on Now, you can do something called soft quitting, which is where you go almost right to the end of the cancellation process. And almost always with lots of things, they will say, oh, hey, no, do you want to stay with us for another 3 months at sometimes very high discount?
And Grace, thinking about some other kind of essential stuff that we can cut costs on before Christmas, travel, food, where would you start us?
Yeah, definitely with travel, because you might have already missed your chance to get cheap tickets, but getting them now is still going to be cheaper than getting them the week before Christmas, because train tickets, the advance fares, they usually go on sale up to 12 weeks before travel. But if you've missed out this year, set a reminder for late September next year, and you'll definitely be getting your cheap tickets. And then there's always, our usual tips, make sure you've checked if there's a rail card you can use. If you're driving, check where you can get the cheapest petrol. There's comparison sites that exist that you can search petrol prices, especially at Christmas. You might be perhaps doing a longer journey than you'd usually do, so you definitely want to top up at the right places. Supermarkets tend to be cheaper. So I think with travel, a lot of it comes down to planning ahead. I do think spending half an hour looking at the trains, looking at the petrol prices, something like that, doing that now rather than the week before Christmas when there's lots more going on is probably going to save you time and money. And food costs. One of our biggest tips here is that which compares prices monthly for the biggest supermarkets to find the best place to do. a small shop and a big shop. And Aldi has been consistently the cheapest for a basket of goods, and Asda often leads the way for larger shops. So if there's anything that you can get now, like non-perishable items, but things that you'll still want at Christmas, it might be worth looking into those now, maybe at the cheaper supermarkets, because you might have already booked a slot for, perhaps you've already booked a delivery slot for your Christmas shop, or you've already worked out what you're going to need. But I think from now to Christmas, you can start getting some of those items that aren't going to go off.
I really want to talk about ways that we can build some extra funds or savings challenges, if you like. Do you want to talk us through some of them?
Yeah, I was trying to research like interesting, exciting savings challenges that maybe could inspire people to save some money. So this one is called the Little Vices Challenge, and you need to cut out any non-essential spending for a set period. So for instance, skipping a £15 takeaway on weekends or a £3 coffee each weekday. So you could save over £120 over 4 weeks if you did that.
I mean, sometimes coffees can be £4.50 these days, which is shocking.
Especially if you want the oat milk, the vanilla syrup. So I think, especially now as we like come to, we have a set deadline here. We have Christmas Day. I think when we have a deadline, it's easier to sort of put this into practice, and you can really see that add up. You can even like take your savings and put them in like a pot, as we said earlier, like a virtual jar almost, so you know how much you're saving. Then there is also the 5p challenge. Now this involves saving 5p on day one, and then you add another 5p each day. So the second day you're saving 10p. On the third day, you're saving 15p, and so on. And obviously, by the end of the challenge, let's say if you did it for around 6 weeks, you would have saved over £60, which isn't bad.
Yeah, that'll take us to around New Year.
Yeah, just for saving your 5 pennies. And the last one is roundups. Many banks offer sort of like a roundup feature. So they might round up your purchase to the nearest pound, and then they move the change automatically into a pot. So I have this turned on my current account, and I usually get a notification like each week saying, oh, well done, you topped up £5.44 to your savings this week. But you earn interest on the savings as well. And if I leave that pot alone, it can really add up, because I think I maybe have like a £50 direct debit as well, just to try and keep that growing. But yeah, usually I look at it every 6 months, that pot, and it's always like so much, I'm like, wow, that's really saved up a lot. So you don't have to be doing those roundups for very long before you like notice the difference, and you don't really feel it from your current account day to day, because it's just sort of taking the pennies.
And what kind of banks offer that? I feel like it came up earlier when we were talking about the budgeting apps, maybe Plum.
Yeah, so you can get some. It might be that your current account provider already does it. So Monzo does it, NatWest, Starling, Bank of Scotland, TSB and Lloyds. I believe Plum also does a roundup feature. You might have to sort of look at like the features maybe in the app and check if you might, you'll probably have to turn it on, and it might be you need to create a pot for it to go to. But it's such an effortless way to save, because you like don't notice it at all. And more providers are now sort of offering these features, and they're just good fun to look at, like your pot that you've grown out of not really much at all.
Well, we've covered so much ground and plenty more to come. After a quick break, we'll be back with cashback, supermarket loyalty schemes, and touching on another big day that's just around the corner, Black Friday. We'll be back after this.
Next time you need to get work done on your home, or your car, or your garden, make sure you choose a trader you can trust. And don't just choose any trader. Choose a Which? Trusted trader. Our trading standards professionals only endorse traders who've passed our rigorous assessment that includes credit reports, customer satisfaction surveys, reference checks, and interviews. When we say a trader's good enough to display our Which? Trusted trader logo, you can trust us. But don't take our word for it. Search Which? Trusted Traders online to see our directory of around 4,000 traders. Every customer review you read there is verified genuine by our moderators, so you can choose with confidence. To find a local trader you can trust, search Which? Trusted Traders or go to which.co.uk/traders. That's which.co.uk/traders. Everybody needs a trader they can trust.
Welcome back to the show. Now, I want to talk about cashback. So these websites, cashback websites, have been around for a long time. I've been using them for years, actually. Grace, are there decent savings to be made?
What we're talking about here, cashback sites like Quidco and Top Cashback, and this is when you're already going to make a purchase. For example, I've found my air fryer, maybe on Currys or Amazon, and before making that purchase, I go via the cashback site, and it tracks my cookies, and then at the retailer, Amazon or Currys will give that cashback site some money, and they will give me some money for using their cashback site. These discounts can sort of range from like 1% cashback maybe to like 20% on something, a much bigger purchase. So I had a little brief look actually, and I think Top Cashback had like a 20% Black Friday thing at Currys on certain products. Quidco had like 2% at Amazon, 4.8% at ASOS. So I think if you're sort of planning some big spends for particularly around Black Friday, it's definitely worth using. So there are some things you need to watch out for when using cashback sites. You need to double check that the deal is actually the best deal, because you might be able to find the product cheaper elsewhere.
And Claire, are you a cashback user?
Yeah, I do. I use like a variety of different cashback apps/sites. So I think a really interesting thing to note is they very much fall into two camps. So Top Cashback and Quidco, which you've discussed, are like brilliant for online shopping. So obviously you just go into the app, or you can have an extension on your browser on your desktop that does it automatically. And the other sort of variety of cashback sites is gift card or voucher cashback. So, and a good example of that would be Jam Donut, or there's another app called Cheddar, where what you do is you kind of cost up what you're going to buy. It's slightly lengthier, but then you get the cashback instantly. So you cost up what you're going to buy. And let's say it comes to £90, for example. You go into e.g. Jam Donut, you buy a voucher for that shop for £90, you immediately get your cash back, and you use the voucher to pay for the item.
I mean, speaking of there being a hive of activity around cashback, banks are doing it too. Is this something we should be using, Grace?
Yeah, it might be that your current account provider already offers retailer cashback deals. So Monzo started doing it last year. Theirs is really good because sometimes with the retailer cashback offers, where they're usually just with a few retailers here and there, they're not really like places that I shop at, and I'm just like, okay, I'm never going to use this. But with the Monzo one, it's always restaurants and shops that I like shop at a lot. They're really popular brands. So that for me, I'm like, oh, finally a cashback offer that I feel like I can really make the most of, because I actually shop there.
And does it work in store as well?
Yeah, so with the Monzo cashback, you'll get some offers added to your account. You just have to opt in, which is a little bit annoying. You have to go through them all and say yes. But when you shop at that retailer, like, so for example, if they were going to do 2% back at Boots, I'd click yes, I would like that offer. And that might last for like a month, that deal's active. And then the next time I shop in there and pay with my Monzo card, I'll get the cash back, and it will go into a pot, and I get that instantly. And back to the cashback sites that we were talking about, you can actually like stack your cashback by paying with sort of a cashback credit card. And then, so if I've used the cashback site, like Top Cashback or Quidco, and then I've paid with my cashback credit card, I'm earning 2 lots of cashback. So that's also a savvy way to do it as well. Yeah.
Can we just touch on supermarket loyalty schemes? Firstly, are they worth it? I mean, I'm actually not signed up to all of them. I've got a club card, but I'm often at Sainsbury's, and I'm not using my Nectar, and I feel like maybe I should get a slapped wrist for that.
I think it's down to personal preference here, because which has done lots of campaigning on the fact that we don't quite agree with there being this sort of like 2-tier pricing system. And I think it's down to the individual if you want to sign up and you want the supermarket to have your data. Like for me personally, I have signed up. I do use loyalty schemes and I really enjoy using them. But I think it has to be like a personal preference, but they are free to sign up to, and as you said, like that's the state of the shop of the going to the supermarket now, is that there are a lot of deals on Nectar Price and Tesco Club Card, and personally I don't want to miss out on those deals, so I do use my loyalty schemes, but I don't let it dictate what I'm going to buy. I go with my list, and if it happens to be on a deal, then I'll make the most of it.
And they're not just about getting the Nectar offers or the Club Card offers. The points that you accrue can be used for interesting stuff, which I suppose could be useful in the run up to Christmas.
So you can, for example, like if you don't know what to do with your Nectar points, you could convert them to Avios points and spend them that way. I always use my Club Card vouchers as this is probably not the best way to use them, but as soon as I get my vouchers for like £2.50 or like £3, I spend them, and I have them off my weekly shop. But yeah, you can obviously with Club Card, we know that you can convert those points with Tesco partners, so you can even use that. One of our colleagues in the money team, they always spend their Club Card points on I think like one of the theme parks, and they get a discounted like family ticket because they've used their Club Card points. So it's also nice to like have something that you're going to spend them on.
And Claire, do you use these loyalty schemes? Have you got any interesting stories that you've used your points on or anything?
So I do use them. I think, as you were saying, I sort of feel a bit strong-armed into using them just because you do get such a massive price advantage on things. But and I know you guys did some work on this, but it's sort of almost a case of, is this a better price for me as a member, or is it an inflated price for people who aren't willing to sign up? But yeah, no, I do use them, and it does give me sort of a bit of a jolt of pleasure when I scan my Nectar card at Sainsbury's and the price drops by something ridiculous. But Tesco Club Card, they do have a scheme where you can add all of your vouchers to a Christmas pot specifically, and they hold it in there, so you don't access them throughout the year, and then they sort of give them to you, I think, around about this time of year. And I suppose actually Christmas, whether we're talking groceries or whether we're talking, for example, Boots Advantage points, because they're a great place to buy gifts, this time of year you probably can really put quite a good dent into your overall Christmas bill by harnessing the power of the points that you've collected over the year.
And when it comes to gifts, then, shall we just get some final thoughts here? Grace, I was reading in the latest issue of Which Money magazine that you said you won't be buying anyone a gift card this Christmas.
No, I've been stung by a recent experience where I was trying to use a Ticketmaster gift card a few weeks ago for a gig, and sadly it turned out this card had expired.
I've literally fallen into that trap with Ticketmaster as well.
So Ticketmaster, you get 12 months to use your gift card, which I personally felt was a bit stingy, particularly as most retailers do give you 24 months to 2 years. I mean, some give you way longer. National Book tokens, you get 8 years. Theatre tokens never expire. I think IKEA, you get 10 years. Amazon, you get 10 years. And most of the retailers do offer a standard 2 years. So to have this like gift card run out after like 12 months, especially for a gift card for entertainment where you're not always going to have something that you want to use it on, I felt was really mean. And I did some digging, and unluckily for me, in other countries, for example, like Ireland, there's a rule that gift cards have no expiry date or must have at least 5 years. But in the UK, there's sadly no regulation on gift cards.
That needs to change, I think.
Yeah, and there's also other things, because although they might seem really ideal for those hard to buy for relatives, they are but they do come with hidden risks, because if a retailer collapses, the card could be worthless. Some have really sneaky inactivity fees that can quietly drain the balance. So after 18 months, you might get charged 80p a month if you haven't used it. I spoke to some members and they told us, I couldn't even find anything that I wanted to spend this on, or this gift card in particular wouldn't let me split the payments, like pay half of the gift card, half with cash. They had to purchase the whole item with the gift card, which also felt a bit restrictive. So I've just basically made a rule that I'm not buying any this year. And if I get some, I'm going to be like writing down there. I'm not just going to assume I have 2 years to use it like I did with that one. I'm going to like write it down like really quickly. And yeah, I'm not going to buy any, because it's annoying, because I feel like as a country, we don't want to give cash. We just don't want to give someone cash.
I just feel a bit rude asking for cash. Or
I don't know if we think it's impersonal. I would much rather have cash. But it feels, as a nation, it feels more appropriate to give a gift card.
Well, Black Friday then is just around the corner. So just before we wrap up, can we talk about Black Friday? I mean, obviously, we've got deals coming out of our ears. I mean, what can we do to ensure we're getting a good deal on Black Friday? Claire, do you want to start us off?
Oh, I'm a Black Friday skeptic. I think, a really good thing to do is, for stuff that you want, is to like monitor the price of it throughout the year and see if it actually is going to be any cheaper at Black Friday. I think, you can still get some good deals on tech, etc. But yeah, I think, we still do have problems with companies like holding a product at a particular price for like the allotted amount of time, so that they can then discount it almost like down to its true value. I would say like work on a list and monitor the price. If it really is cheaper around Black Friday, then that's the time to buy it. There are also a few companies, so for example, like Our Place, who make the really nice pans. They only do 2 sales a year, one of which is Black Friday. And I often find the best deals are those companies that don't discount very often, and they do like a blanket discount code across the whole site just for that specific amount of time. I would also say, if it's something where you're willing to take a risk of it being sold out, then maybe wait until the pre-Christmas sales. They're creeping earlier and earlier, and quite often the bigger discounts that are saved until then.
I'm going to like completely plug our own research here to avoid any Black Friday dud deals. I would completely trust Which, because every year Which looks at all the Black Friday deals, and because the prices are tracked, we can tell you whether that price is the best price or whether it was that price earlier in the year. The 2023 investigation that we did here revealed that 98% of Black Friday deals were cheaper or at the same price at other times of the year. And we have we have quite a few Black Friday best deal pages on our website, and we kind of categorize them by the shop. And usually you can also see how that product actually performed in our testing. So I also think that's really handy.
And we won't plug any deals for items that don't do well in our tests.
Yeah, we're not gonna it's always worth looking at the Which reviews before snapping up these so-called bargains.
And again, we'll pop a link in the description of today's show. And just before we wrap up then, any final advice, whether that be on gift buying or anything else in the run up to Christmas?
So my new hill that I found to die on is that unless it is something that's kind of going to be an heirloom or it's immediately consumable, stop buying people Christmas themed things for Christmas, because all of the magic of Christmas is in the run up and the day itself. And I think if you're buying someone something Christmassy for Christmas, it has like a 2-day lifespan, and there's so much of it there, almost like Christmas merchandise, that I think then just ends up in the charity shop or even being chucked away. I think honestly a really great way to avoid like wasting your money and also waste in general is to really think about the Christmas themed things that you're buying for people. Christmas pajamas for kids, they'll have grown out of by next year. I mean, my kids wear them all year round because I'm not fussed about what's on their pajamas. But I think, that's something that I hadn't really thought about that much until this year. But it's a new sort of pledge that I have made to myself.
That's a really good bit of advice. And Grace?
Before buying anything, and that's good because I haven't bought anything yet, I'm really going to think about the gifts that I know people want. Like, can I get any good, do they even need a gift? Would they maybe prefer to do something with me, like perhaps go to the theatre together, or, have a nice day out? It doesn't need to be like an actual present, like, like a physical thing.
Some kind of experience.
Yeah, and also like for people that I might want to buy something for. I know we haven't really touched on it as much in this episode, but we have in the past. I'm going to look around my charity shops to see, what's there before I buy anything new, because I guess with gifts, we think, we have to buy something because it's Christmas, but sometimes, we don't. I'm going to have a think really carefully about who I'm buying for and what they need versus, what they might want, and where I can get it from.
100%. Very good advice. And I will be doing the same. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. We've covered so much ground. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, a huge thank you again to Grace and Claire for coming on the show today, and to you for listening to this week's episode of the Which Money podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do hit subscribe to make sure you catch our new episodes as soon as they drop. For daily money news and advice, you can find us on social media at Which Money and online at which.co.uk/money. And we also have a free money newsletter, which is delivered to your inbox every Monday. To sign up, visit which.co.uk/money newsletter. This episode of the Which Money podcast was written and presented by me, Lucia Ariano, and produced and edited by James Rowe.
If you're enjoying this podcast from us here at Which, then why not become a Which member? Right now, we've got a special offer, especially for podcast listeners, meaning you can choose any of our 3 membership tiers for 50% off the usual price. Starting at just £39.50 for a full year, you can get Which magazine delivered direct to your door. For the same price, you could also choose a digital Which subscription, giving you access to all of our product reviews, the Which app, and the digital edition of Which magazine. What's more, you'll also be able to use the Ask Which service for personalised one-to-one buying advice. Or why not get a full access Which subscription for just £49.50 for a full year? Don't forget, that's 50% off the usual price. To join Which or to find out more, just head to which.co.uk/podcast offer. That's which.co.uk/podcast offer, or click the link in the description for today's podcast for 50% off a Which annual subscription.